Hello friends, it's Shadow Ready here. Today we are teaching World of Warships, and today we're going to be more exact and be teaching about cruisers and the cruiser positions. So we've already covered destroyers and battleships. We're going to talk about cruisers. You may not agree with me on this. Bear with me. Hear me out. Let your mind be open, because this is a little bit controversial, but also at the same time it makes sense too. So with that being said, let's begin. So as a cruiser, my goal usually is, it depends on my type of cruiser. If you have a heavy cruiser, you can kind of be more like a battleship in a way. So you can kind of watch the battleship video that I had earlier. But if you're a light cruiser, you're going to try to screen for your battleships. I know it sounds kind of boring and that type of stuff, but that is basically what they were in real life. They were, just picket fences of defense for battleships and for aircraft carriers, especially if there are aircraft carriers in the game. Your goal, I know it seems like A doesn't do much, but if you're by a battleship, you're at least trying to weaken the planes that are going for your battleships. So with that being said, say like this is my battleship and he goes here, I'm going to follow him kind of like parallel, type of thing. I am here for support for the most part. If he goes about like right here, which probably is the most common thing, I'm going to probably use this island to my advantage. And if I'm a radar cruiser, I should have enough range to at least cover most, if not all, of this cap circle right here. So if I use my radar, then I can potentially help out our destroyers and try to, get the destroyers out of the game. So the first 5 minutes of a battle for a cruiser is trying to literally survive. I know this sounds crazy, but you are more powerful the later on in the game you survive. It sounds crazy, but yes, it's the truth, because you can whittle away battleships. You can help find destroyers. You have a very versatile role in the game, so just make sure that you keep up with that, because the longer you stay alive, the longer potential you have in the game, and more credits and all that fun stuff. So, we're going to say I was here for like the first couple of minutes. We happened to get a destroyer. If not, I'm turning around and going back, type of thing. Only press if your battleships, I would say battleships, not just one, multiple are going, and then you could potentially island hop to here. But be careful between like here, because you have this big window where if there's a battleship over here, he could get you. So that's just the one thing to kind of watch out for. And it's gonna depend on what your team is consistent of. If we are pushing very hard one direction, then just keep going with it. You want to stay with your team. You're gonna be a part of your team. You're gonna be basically a support player. I know it's gonna suck, but that's what I feel like at least a light cruiser should be doing. Yes, you're going to be helping target like a battleship that's over here and setting them on fire and causing all the annoying things in the world. So that's kind of like the first and foremost. Your heavy cruisers can potentially, I would still do kind of the same thing, but the only thing is I wouldn't be targeting so much the DDs. I'd be targeting other cruisers, because people love, for whatever reason, to go in between these two islands all the time. So just be careful of that if you're on the opposite side, If I was a cruiser on the opposite side and I was going for this capture point, I would probably be around in this area. That would be the safest bet for a cruiser player, because you still have the potential to pick off anybody that is trying to go across here, and you're not exposing yourself to any potential threats down here at the bottom of the screen. So with that being said, once you get to that 5-minute point, 5-10 minute point, just depending on how the battle is, usually 3 capture points, right? And you can kind of tell because there's a lot of ships dead. So now, as a cruiser captain, you have 2 options. You can start playing around this, I call it like the imaginary line that divides the groups together. usually you'll have, you know, DDs that are starting to push forward that way. So if they are pushing forward, you can kind of support them and be kind of like in this area right here, right? Because there's this island. Once again, you're going to be kind of island hopping. And you can now kind of be released of your duties, being supportive of your battleships. And that also allows you, like right here, this is a perfect opportunity right here, either side, to use radar, because 9 times out of 10 radar is going to probably cover most if not all of this capture point, and most if not all of this capture point if you do it right here. So that just exposed all the DDs under the world. So that's a great and excellent point and place to be. So that just, you know, eliminates any potential positions that you need to destroy. I'm just drawing this line back because I accidentally deleted it. So now if I was down here at the south, I would probably be somewhere right here in a cruiser. Depending on the situations, of course, I may be right here. This one doesn't provide me a lot of support, to be honest with you. This is more of where your DDs will fight each other, which if that is the case, you could probably come right here at the beginning of the battle just to help out, and then advance to one of these 2 positions once you deal with that DD. Once again, the biggest thing for you as a cruiser is to stay alive as long as possible. You're not as dangerous as a destroyer late game, but you are pretty much one of the only things that can quote unquote counter a DD besides an aircraft carrier, because you have that radar and it's just like an instant, like, oh, I see you, time to get rid of you type of thing. So that is the biggest thing, is trying to stay alive and making sure you're using these islands to advantages. Kind of like in my previous video about battleships, now this is the point where you can kind of be right here and protected by the island, so you don't have to worry about this side, and you can focus like this side or this side, whatever the case may be, and you can pepper them down just a little bit. So mostly, I know this sounds a little repetitive. At this point too, you could also go back to being supportive of a battleship. So this would also be a great plugin if you are a platoon. One of you is a battleship and one of you is a cruiser, just to support each other. I've seen that go a long way. I've seen, you know, double divisions of battleships. I've seen all that type of stuff, but the ones that I really see work the best is one that is a destroyer, one is a cruiser, and one is a battleship, because the battleship is focusing on whatever target the DD spots. The cruiser is making sure that anything that's happening to his battleship is protected. So that's the biggest thing, is just making sure that you are able to protect your battleship friends, because I know they have a lot of health, but they don't have the best resources sometimes to deal with, like, destroyers whenever they pop up right next to them, or to deal with aircraft. And that is your job. That is basically your job right there, to destroy those destroyers and to deal with the aircraft. Now you may have a limited role on subs, because depending on your carry or what nation you go down, you may only have like you don't see too many depth charges, but your light cruisers may have depth charges, but you still have at least the plain ones, which are okay. They're not the best, but your overall goal is going to be defending against aircraft and destroyers. That's the biggest thing. That's your biggest targets. And if you're a heavy cruiser, you're going after the light cruisers type of thing. So it just makes the world go round, you know? But thank you for joining me on this. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know down in the comments if you have to disagree or anything like that. And then also on top of that, if you have any other questions, I have one for destroyers and one for battleships for you. But other than that, have a wonderful day. Thanks. Bye-bye.